Hey, hey. I never know if this is working or not. Is it working? Am I live? I am live. Hey. It always has some weird delay. And, anyways, hello. Kelly T here. I am so excited to talk to you guys today about what happens to your hormones as you're navigating the menopausal transition. This is something, especially amongst my ladies, my clientele, we are learning and growing as our hormones shift. And a lot of times my ladies come to me and they've tried it all and they don't have the answers. They just keep trying every and anything, and the answers just don't, they're not finding the solution. So I was sitting here thinking last week, what can I talk about this week that will resonate with the questions that I'm getting on my Instagram or an email? And I was like, you know what? We're going to talk about hormones. We're going to talk about what they are, what they do. Um, just, yeah, this part of life. So thank you for all who are tuning in, and thank you for those that are taking the time out of your day to listen to this replay. I chose to do these lives pretty much every week. I think I missed 1 week in January because I want to give you guys the knowledge that I can give so that you can heal your hormones, you can thrive through menopause. And for those that don't know me, which I've had a lot of new people join this group. So for those that don't know me, I am Kelly Terwilliger. I'm an online personal trainer, a face-to-face personal trainer, integrative health practitioner. I got 3 certifications additional to my integrative health practitioner certification, which span from thyroid, hormones, and gut. Yes, I had to think about that other one. So I love to learn. I love to grow. I'm actually working towards a level 2 certification, which is all gut and hormones. So I can't wait to bring that to you, hopefully by the end of the summer. Fingers crossed. So I am ready to just dive in and talk to you all about what are hormones. And basically, they are chemical messengers that circulate through your blood. We have about 50 hormones that kind of, I'm going to just say, chatter with one another as they're navigating through your bloodstream. We all know that's not really the case, but that's my description for today's Facebook Live. They affect mood, metabolism, growth, weight. I mean, a lot of things. They are an integral ingredient to getting the results that you want. The two I'm going to kick off with and just talk about, and actually before I even get into that, we're going to talk about perimenopause and what that is, and just some different things that kind of go along with that, and then I'll get into what I was just about to dive into. So perimenopause starts happening typically in your 50s. That's the average age. It could happen a little earlier. In my case, I went through menopause in my early 30s. So I know that that's a different age, but most women navigate their menopausal journey around the age of 50. And what they start experiencing, or what you may be experiencing, are sleepless nights, weight loss resistance, maybe mood kind of shifting up and down. Those are pretty much, a lot of the symptoms that we experience, just early on and as we're navigating. Menopause is actually 1 day. So you hear a lot of influencers talk about, I'm going through menopause, and I'm guilty of this too. And you'll probably even see some writing out there that I haven't changed yet, but menopause is actually just 1 day. So let's say, what are we at? February 7th right now, and your last menstrual cycle was February 7th of last year. Well, guess what? Today you are in menopause. Yesterday you were in peri, tomorrow you'll be in post. So menopause is actually 1 day and 1 day only. So that is one of the misconceptions. And, a lot of people are like, I'm going through menopause. Yeah, you're definitely going through the transition. So I've kind of changed my language to the menopausal transition. And, that's just something that we're learning and growing together, right? As you navigate menopause, perimenopause, your estrogen and progesterone levels are fluctuating. That's where you're getting your missed periods. You might even get heavier bleeding, different things like that. That's a sign that you're definitely changing and you're moving towards more of the peri and menopausal space. typically what happens, I'm just going to give a little chart here with my hands. Typically what happens is in our 20s, we're kind of aligned, right? They're besties. Estrogen and progesterone are besties. They kind of align. But then when we start navigating perimenopause, progesterone is the first one to decrease. So this is where you're going to see an imbalance. It's kind of weird because I'm backwards on the screen. You're going to see an imbalance of estrogen still up here and progesterone's down here. That's where you're going to feel the hot flashes, the night sweats, the mood disorders, things like that. Those are signs and symptoms that you are adjusting with your progesterone and estrogen. What that also looks like is a lot of people call this estrogen dominance. And it's not saying you're producing more estrogen. We all know as you're navigating the menopausal journey, your estrogen is going down as well. It just so happens that progesterone is the first one to go down first. So with that, you're hearing a lot probably if you follow on social media, estrogen dominance, and those are things where we're just not aligning like we did. And estrogen dominance could look like a lot of different things, and we'll talk a little bit more into that here in a second. But those are things that it's a natural progression, and at some point they're both going to be really low and tanked. So we need estrogen. We want estrogen. So I know early on, whenever I was going through my perimenopausal journey and then now my postmenopausal journey, the first thing that they were concerned with was bone density and my cardiovascular health. I did find out since I went into menopause early and I had no clue I was in menopause that I have osteoporosis. Since I found that diagnosis out, I've worked towards reversing that. Now I'm osteopenia, and then I have one spot where I'm osteoporosis, whereas before I was 3 spots where I was osteoporosis. So just know that if you are going through early menopause, speak to your doctor, get a bone density scan. This might be something that could be an integral point for you. Mental health, that's another thing estrogen has a huge factor in. And, you already noticed this. You're kind of feeling a little crazy at times. And this is something that your hormones, it's not just you, it's your hormones. So I share my own story about that. I won't get on it today on this live, but I'll quickly talk about it. I went to a doctor and I was like, I feel like I'm just like high and low and just don't feel like I'm put together, and I just feel a lot of anxiety. And they were like, here's a antidepressant. And I'm like, it's not depression. I've had that in my 20s. I understand what that is. This is something different. But, doctors are always there to help fix things. Come to find out, when I did start working with a functional practitioner, we found out that my hormones were tanked. So she's like, no wonder you're depressed. Look at this. And she gave me all the charts and was like, oh, makes sense. So that was kind of a side note on my own journey, but just know that it's not you. You're not crazy. You're not depressed. You are just dealing with the symptoms of perimenopause and your hormones shifting. And there are ways to solve it. There are solutions, and I'll get into that here in a little bit. So one of the biggest things that as we're navigating menopause, the journey, we have a disruption in a gut dysfunction, our immune system, lower insulin sensitivity. We have muscle loss. There is a percentage of muscle loss that we lose. So it is super important that we make sure we are focusing not on cardio anymore, ladies. We are focusing on muscle building exercises. And what that looks like for muscle building exercises is a progressive overloading plan where you're always increasing, whether it's weight, whether it's reps, or whether it's sets. You're always going up. Gone are the days where we're in some jazzercise class with 5-pound dumbbells. Not sure if we use 5-pound dumbbells in jazzercise, but you get my point. So we really want to make sure that we are lifting as heavy as you're comfortable with. I know I have a 79-year-old client. I don't know if she's in this group or not, but she is doing, we're at least at 8 to 10 pounds dumbbells. And I know I've built her up to that. We started at 5 pounds. And I know even as you age, how important it is for me to keep growing her as well. And of course, I make sure form is okay too. But just know that if you're using 5-pound dumbbells, especially for bicep curls, tricep extensions, even squats, I would highly encourage you to reach out to a trainer who is very muscle building focused. You're not going to get big and bulky. We don't have the testosterone to get big and bulky that all of the other that you might fear. You will gain those lean muscles and lean out and give your metabolism a nice little boost as well. Some hormones that I'm going to quickly talk about today that we kind of deal with in peri are estrogen, progesterone, insulin, thyroid, DHEA. Those are in cortisol. I was like, there's one more that I'm forgetting, cortisol. Those are all intricate, and those are huge in just our hormone harmony as we're navigating the peri phase. Estrogen does kind of like a little tiny dance with insulin. So if there are any misfires, then that estrogen is telling that insulin, hey, let's hang out in the belly. And that's where you're getting that tie around the belly, hips, kind of things like that. So you want to always make sure that you are detoxing properly, for one. For two, that you are just kind of making sure you're eating the right foods to support your hormones too. And that'll come here in a little bit. Because that insulin, it loses its signal with estrogen. So it goes right to our midsection. That's why as we age and we're navigating this phase of life, we're seeing a lot more women with midsection weight gain or weight around the hips, things like that. That's the first place it's going to go. That tells me right there that we're looking at the estrogen dominance kind of situation because it's just higher. Or maybe we're dealing with some kind of insulin resistance. And, those are things to always look for. Some low estrogen symptoms. If you are low in estrogen, I know I've gone through high and lows of estrogen. My low symptoms, night sweats, hot flashes, just kind of like anxiety. Those are a couple low estrogen symptoms. High estrogen symptoms, you might be dealing with mood swings, bloating, even anxiety with that. That can go either way. It just depends on your metabolic makeup. Now I talked a little bit about progesterone, kind of the other hormone. That is your happy hormone. That is where, we want to keep them both in line, but we also know that at some point in life that's tanking, and then the other one will come down too as well. So progesterone helps with anxiety, it helps with sleep disturbances. I definitely call it the happy hormone. I mean, it when women start supplementing with progesterone, their whole life, I feel like, turns around and changes. Low progesterone symptoms are sleep issues, maybe some been diagnosed with PCOS, cold hands and feet. My experience is, especially with cold hands and feet, I didn't know when I was going through my menopausal journey in my early 30s, my feet were always freezing. My hands were always cold. So now looking back after all my studies, I'm like, well, if I would have known what I know now, then it would have been a little bit better. I could have supplemented or maybe got on some kind of medication or something like that. High progesterone, you're looking at breast tenderness, sleep disturbances, or not sleep disturbances, sleepiness, dizzy, kind of those kind of symptoms. Both estrogen and progesterone play a huge metabolic function for all of your hormones. So we really want those to kind of always sing and dance together. Another couple hormones I'll talk about real quick, cortisol, that's your fight or flight. And that is where your stress response. So immediately, if you're like getting scared of something, that's cortisol that's like kind of taking you into action. Cortisol is super important, especially with metabolizing food. It tells I don't know how to say this, but it tells the food where to go. Basically, store fat or burn fat. What are we going to do today? And if you're high or low, there could be a lot of, and cortisol also, you store it around the midsection. So that's super important, just to make sure that your cortisol is aligned with, with your goals. And low cortisol symptoms, brain fog, depression, those are fatigue. That could be low cortisol. High cortisol, sleepless nights, any kind of sleep issues. I know whenever my cortisol was through the roof, I was waking up at noon or midnight. I was waking up at 3 a.m. and I felt like I can run a marathon. So those are, hair thinning. That's definitely a high cortisol response there. Thyroid is something a lot of my ladies come to me with, and typically they get diagnosed with some kind of thyroid issue and they get put on thyroid medication. But we all know, we're smarter now, that it doesn't just start with a thyroid. It starts almost 9 times out of 10 in your gut, because your hormones are housed in your gut. So with that said, if you have any kind of gut dysfunction, typically we do as we're navigating the phase, you are going to be, something's going to be thrown off, because remember I said earlier, the harmony, right? The hormone harmony, it's kind of song and dance. If something is off and thyroid is maybe the weakest link, that's going to be the first symptom that shows up. Typically weight gain, puffiness, things like that. If you have like more of the low thyroid, high thyroid symptoms, heart palpitations, that's kind of a common theme. Hair thinning again, really a lot of the symptoms align together, which is why some people get misdiagnosed as well. DHEA, that's a precursor for estrogen and progesterone. That is something that's made in the adrenals, super important. Testosterone, that's it's your happy mood, brings back the zest in your life. I see a lot of women with low testosterone, and that's fine. We don't want a lot of testosterone anyways. But I will say with that, if we are restricting our calories, especially our macronutrients, the proteins, fats, and carbs, which equal calories anyways, we could be tanking all of the hormones that I just discussed. So it's super important. Like most women, they want to immediately pull back on calories when they feel like they have a hormone imbalance. But in true reality, when you pull back on calories, you're essentially starving your hormones. You're starving your body of the micro and macronutrients that it needs to stay optimized. So it's a huge misconception. And I see so many people doing these crash diets, like under 1,200 calorie diets. And, it's one of those things that when they come back out of them, yeah, they may feel great, but when they come back out, your metabolism has tanked. So now you have to meet it down here. Whereas, especially in my Faster Way program, with all of my clients, we are optimizing our metabolism to the point where we're still getting results at 16, 17, 18, 1,800 calories. And the goal is to keep that hormone optimization hot, like working in conjunction with the fuel that you want to take in. So that's also a really key thing for a lot of my ladies. Is I'll even get emails all the time like, Kelly, should I just pull back on my macros? No, it's the last thing we want to do. We want to see what's going on internally. We might pull back on carbs. That's fine, not a lot, but we might. There is a time and a place to bring the carbs back. I only do it for 3, I think the most I've done was 8 weeks with a client, and then we grow it. And I do it. I make sure the specific client that I'm working with communicates with me, because it's something that you don't want to undereat too much of carbs, because then it does throw your thyroid off and all the other hormones. So those are just some things. Quick, going into a calorie deficit doesn't work. Some tips, since we are kind of talking about calories: eat 2 hours upon waking. And when I say eat, I don't mean a carb bar or something that has some sugar in it. I want proteins, fats, and fiber. Those are the key things. Of course, you can have some carbs too, but I want at least 30 grams in your very first meal, 2 hours upon waking. Now, I'll get clients that are like, oh, well, I work out at 5 a.m. and I'm racing off to work. I don't have time till 9. Okay, that's fine. I'll let you slide. But I really want you to try 2 hours upon waking to get proteins, fats, and fiber. Throw in, 1 piece of gluten-free toast or Dave's Killer Bread or something like that. You should be fine. But make sure 30 grams of protein is at that plate for sure. I know for me, I do a nutrient-dense smoothie I do the daily nutritional support through EcoLife. It has 15 grams of protein. It also has some micro and macronutrients. I load it up. By the end of my smoothie, I am getting 28 grams of protein, if I'm going to be exact. So, 30 grams is close. Also, another tip: don't eat. This is kind of a rule that's changing, and I'm reading a lot more about this. Cynthia Thurlow, actually, I did a program with her over the fall or summer, and she suggested eating every 4 to 5 hours, so you're fasting in between that eating period. And I actually started doing it because before, especially I'm on Zooms all day with clients, I just quickly eat in between client calls. And I started strategically doing black coffee for my breakfast, so that way I stay in a fasted state. 2 hours after I wake, before the gym, I do my nutrient-dense smoothie. My lunch happens usually about 4 hours later, 3 or 4. That's the only one where I'm a little off. Eat my large lunch, which is always 30 grams of protein no matter what, and depends on what my macros are for that day. I could have a carb for lunch. Today I did have red skin potatoes, but typically if I know I'm going to have carbs in the evening, I will not do carbs at lunch, but we aren't having carbs tonight for dinner. So, but you always, and then, so there's my lunch, and then 5 hours later, 4 to 5 hours later, eat your next meal. So that way your body has time to give it some rest, give it some digestive rest, and kind of reset. I'm finding that when you follow just, you eat 2 hours upon waking and then eat 4 to 5 hours later, you have a better insulin response anyways. I think there's only been a couple studies where they're saying, still eat 2 hours. So you feel it out. Everybody's going to be different, so you feel it out. Steps to support your midlife hormones, because I don't want to keep this for very long, so I'm going to cut it really short here. Steps to support your midlife hormones: follow an anti-inflammatory diet plan. I know in that faster way, we get rid of gluten and dairy, but we don't get rid of all the foods that could be inflammatory for your specific body type. So really kind of focus on that anti-inflammatory. Stop over-exercising. The adrenals don't like it. Remember, I talked earlier, adrenals, you will carry that weight in the midsection. Lift weights, especially progressive overload, super important. 4 days a week is all you need. That's all I do anymore, is 4 days a week. And I'll be honest, today was just buys and tries, and I'm gonna get my 10,000 steps. So it's you don't have to over stress on your exercise plan either. You don't have to be in the gym for an hour and a half. I actually feel much better with my 4 days a week, and I do 45 minutes to an hour, and then I make sure I get my 10,000 steps, which doesn't always happen, but I try. And then get your sleep. Make sure you're getting 7 to 8 hours. If you can get 9 hours, great, but who has that time? Reduce stress. My rule, turn the phone off, 7:30, 8 o'clock, we're done. Turn the phone off. Nobody needs to be contacting you that late, unless you have a kid out and about, but I don't yet. He's only 9. So, turn that phone off and reduce stress, read, self-love, give yourself, you definitely deserve that. Supplements that help some menopausal symptoms, your Activated B complex. I love mine. I will drop it all in the comments below here. Cabral has a great one. Adrenal support with magnesium, or magnesium to support the adrenals. I also like ashwagandha. The full spectrum magnesium is by far the favorite. Digestive enzymes really help with digestion. Prebiotic foods, you're looking at garlic, you're looking at onion, flax, things like that. Omegas, omega-3s, that I think is a game changer. You should be taking omega-3s at this phase in life. Flaxseed helps with night sweats anyways. Let me go back to the flax part. That will support your night sweats, hopefully. I mean, that's what they say, at least. It didn't help mine, but that's what they say. Black coal hush is also good for hot flashes, things like that. Again, didn't help mine, but it might help yours. And inositol is great before bed. You might want to consider that. I know, is it Cynthia Thurlow that has a great inositol? But I know Dr. Cabral in the daily nutritional support, he does put a little bit in that, so I get it through that, which is great. Creatine, if you are lifting weights, which hopefully you are, 3 to 10 grams per day. That's important. Outside of that, that's important for metabolic and bone health, both. So outside of that, I wanted to hopefully not keep you guys too long. This went a little longer than I wanted, but I hope you guys learned a little bit today. I am offering, of course, I have a 6-week Faster Way to Fat Loss program. I do the Faster Way way different than anybody else. I make sure that you and I communicate at least once a week to make sure you are getting the results that you want. If you guys follow me on Instagram, you see I post some testimonials all the time about results that women are getting, and they are in the menopausal phase. They are transitioning through it as well. They're just like you and everybody else. So that 6-week program, I follow my own rules with it. You have the workouts, you have the meal guides, but you have me as your coach, which is what the biggest piece is. So if you are interested, I'm going to link it down here. I'm closing registration. I started Monday, but I'm closing registration Thursday, tomorrow. So it's not too late to join. Tomorrow is my deadline. If not, I will probably have one in March. Not sure the date yet. I also do one-on-one consults. I have a 4-session package. So if you need the accountability and if you really want to dial into your hormones and see what the heck's going on, I would highly suggest looking at my 4-session package. It is going to be linked below here. You and I hop on a Zoom once a week. We make sure you are aligned with what your goals are. We make sure you're getting results. Those 4-week sessions, depending on the person, because I might suggest some labs and I might suggest some supplements, depends. And if that is the case, then I do push the 4 weeks out a little bit because I want to see how it works. So I'm really flexible on that 4-week package. It is not a one and done, like you have to do it in 4 weeks. You're working with me, we work through things. Outside of that, I will be on here next Wednesday. And if you have any topics that you want me to discuss, talk to me in the comments, let me hear. And I am so glad that you guys tuned in to watch this today. Hope you learned something. Hope you have some takeaways. And drop me in the comments what questions you have. Bye.